So we have some more great news against the challenge on the ATF's pistol brace rule that was put in place by the Biden administration. The Trump DOJ recently agreed to drop their Fifth Circuit appeal in the mock lawsuit, and now this is impacting even more cases. So let's break down what is now happening. Now, before we jump into this video, I want to thank one of the main supporters of this channel, which is Attorneys on Retainer. When it comes to self-defense protection, AOR is in a league of their own. They're an actual law firm, and they can help you in incidents and even states that maybe other companies could not. And one of the really cool things about AOR is right now, they've expanded their coverage. They have a ton of different benefits that are available to you guys, like civil liability protection, red flag law coverage, expungement coverage, and a lot of other benefits that you can get if you sign up this year as well. So if you're interested in one of the best programs, in my opinion, check out AOR using the links down below. And if you use my code ARMEDSCHOLAR, you can save some money on the individual sign up plan and then also the family plan if you want to get the family plan. As I mentioned in the intro, we have some very important news in the battle against the ATF and their current restrictions on all brace pistols as SBRs. The Trump DOJ recently stipulated to the Fifth Circuit that they have agreed to essentially drop the active appeal on the whole pistol brace issue. That prior nationwide vacatur of the pistol brace rule was appealed to the Fifth Circuit by the then Biden administration and the Biden DOJ and ATF, and that administration sought to reverse what was in place already, which was a nationwide block of their rule. However, once the administration changed over to the Trump DOJ and the Trump ATF, they decided to now settle this case and dissolve their appeal in the Fifth Circuit. And now that decision by the DOJ to drop the mock lawsuit at the Fifth Circuit level is impacting even more pistol brace challenges that were currently pending. But even more interesting in a lot of these cases, not only is the Trump DOJ stating that they're actively moving to settle these lawsuits, but they are now admitting that the Judge O'Connor nationwide vacatur is in place and it vacates the pistol brace rule nationwide, and that is some great news. Now, you may recall that the ATF recently suffered multiple losses in a variety of pistol brace cases. Not only did they have multiple preliminary injunctions granted against the rule, but recently you had Judge O'Connor in the Northern District of Texas issue a final merits decision in a case called Mock. And in that decision, he struck down the pistol brace rule put in place by the Biden administration, and he ruled on the final merits and vacated that rule nationwide. Now, in response to that ruling, the Biden ATF appealed to the Fifth Circuit. There was a temporary abeyance in the case so that the Trump DOJ could decide what they wanted to do once they got control of the office and the administration. But then that deadline came and went, and we saw that the Fifth Circuit was moving towards setting this for oral arguments in the Fifth Circuit. But now all of that has essentially been taken off the table because the Trump DOJ has pulled the appeal and conceded the case. Now, in that recent notice, the Trump DOJ stated that pursuant to the Federal Rule of Appellate Procedure 42B1, the parties hereby stipulate to the dismissal of this appeal, with all parties to bear their own costs. Plaintiffs retain the right to seek attorney's fees at the district court level, so essentially the notice is saying that they are pulling that appeal. So in the mock challenge, the ATF agreed that the Judge O'Connor prior nationwide vacatur will now go into effect, and the ATF will concede that the pistol brace rule is finally vacated. Now, there are other lawsuits still out there. There are other challenges other than the mock case. You have multiple in the Fifth Circuit, in that jurisdiction. You have the GOA case, which is the Texas case, the NAGR challenge, the Brito challenge, the NRA challenge, and then the SAF challenge as well. You also have another out in the Eighth Circuit, and that is the FRAC challenge, and that one was on hold also for the mock appeal. Now, recently we saw that the ATF and the FRAC case was kind of updated with a notice to the court that in light of the mock dismissal, they're also actively moving to resolve this case. Well, now we just received a notice in another case here in the Northern District of Texas, and this comes in the SAF case, and they're also saying in light of what just happened in mock with that settlement, they're moving to resolve their case as well. This SAF notice is similar to what happened in the FRAC notice and also what is happening in mock, and they're saying that they're actively moving to resolve this case with the ATF in light of what just happened with mock. The notice here states that on December 13th, 2024, this court stayed proceedings in this matter pending in the Fifth Circuit's resolution of the appeal in the related case Mock versus Bondi. The court also instructed the parties to submit a joint status report every 60 days thereafter to keep the court appraised of the status of the appeal in Mock. Pursuant to that order, the parties respectively informed this court that on July 25th, 2025, the Fifth Circuit entered an order granting the stipulated dismissal of the appeal in mock. Accordingly, the final rule at issue in this action, the factoring criteria for firearms with stabilizing braces, is vacated by Mock versus Garland. The parties are currently discussing whether any further proceedings are necessary in this action. So there, the parties are acknowledging that this case is impacted by what just happened with the settlement in Mock. And here you have the ATF admitting that the factoring criteria, the rule there on pistol braces, that is now vacated because of Mock versus Garland. And they're actively moving to resolve this case in light of that. Now, recently we saw that the Trump DOJ stated in another notice expressly that the final rule at issue in this action, which there would be the pistol brace rule, is vacated by Mock versus Garland. And so all of these cases, all of these notices to the courts are actively signaling that the Mock versus Garland nationwide vacatur is now standing firm and it is actually going in place. You have clear statements from the Trump administration to courts, and you have their actions, settling the Mock case, and then you have all these notices from these courts and these cases that have been pending in light of Mock and waiting for Mock. They are all signaling the same thing, that the nationwide vacatur issued by Judge O'Connor is in full force and effect. That, of course, is good news, and we've been waiting for a clear statement for a long time, not just from the administration, but from all these cases as well, that the pistol brace rule will stand, vacated, and the Judge O'Connor decision will actually stand firm. Now, the one thing that I do want to note with all of this is kind of the long game implications of some of these decisions and the decisions to agree to drop the appeals and drop some of these cases. By agreeing with the Trump DOJ to drop these lawsuits, you get an immediate win, and that nationwide vacatur goes in place. It ends the pistol brace rule, but you also lose the opportunity to get a larger, more impactful final win, at a higher court level like the Fifth Circuit. Remember that the Mock case was only ruled on by the district court, and then the Fifth Circuit only ruled on an interlocutory issue with a preliminary injunction. And essentially, if another anti-gun administration comes into office and they decide to take another crack at this whole brace rule, the only precedent that you actually have to stop that is a district court ruling in Mock. And that ruling, keep in mind, was not dealing with the Second Amendment. It was not really overriding it based on the Second Amendment, and it wasn't really at a higher court level. And really, this was all just based on a violation of the Administrative Procedures Act, also known as the APA. If another administration tries to put in place a different pistol brace rule, they could try to do something new, or they could try to potentially even do the exact rule. Remember that Judge O'Connor struck it down based on the APA, and he said that it did not meet the APA's procedural requirements because it violated the logical outgrowth test. The main issue that Judge O'Connor had with this rule was not that it violated the Second Amendment or even really that it did anything necessarily wrong, but the main sticking point was that the proposed rule had the worksheet 4999 that had a point system that you would look at, add up all the points, and determine whether or not your firearm was an SBR or not. But what they ended up doing after the proposed rule is they scrapped the worksheet and moved to a more, subjective standard that was even broader. And it was that change from the proposed rule to the final rule that violated the APA, and that's what Judge O'Connor ruled against. So if a new anti-gun administration got control of, the office and got control of the ATF, they can take another crack at this. And all they would need to do is tighten up the whole APA procedural requirements and make sure that, they didn't violate something like the logical outgrowth test. So that is what's concerning for the future, because although we get an immediate win here with all these being settled and that pistol brace rule as it stands right now getting pulled, that doesn't necessarily block anything in the future. So now we have another case following suit, agreeing that all of these should be dismissed and that the Judge O'Connor decision in Mock should stand, vacating the rule nationwide. So that's some good news, but again, we have some long game implications that I want you to keep in mind as well. So as we get more information, as this unravels more, I will let you guys know. If you like this video and you like to support the channel, one of the best ways to do that, again, is to simply subscribe to the channel. Also, you can check out my website, armscholar.com. Over there, we have a lot for you guys, like channel merch deals and all that. But we also have the free legal guide that you guys can get. All you have to do is put in your email, and we email you over a free PDF. Again, it's not legal advice, but it's just educational information. And we also send you some additional follow-up emails with educational information to help you guys understand some two-way issues and just other things as well. But as always, thank you guys so much for all of your support. And never forget, this nation was built by armed scholars, and this nation will be maintained by armed scholars.